got some poles, great. You may have used them for years, or maybe you're a newbie. I'm Julia, and here are some tips I've picked up from my years of leading people walking in the mountains. We use your walking poles for different reasons. For example, to protect a dodgy knee, or to give you stability on difficult ground. That's all good. What I want to show you are some techniques I've been using that really make the best use of my walking poles to conserve my energy and spread the walking effort through my body to improve my posture and to speed up my walking pace when I need it. I want to stress that with a couple of exceptions I'll give at the end, I'm not saying that these are the best or only way to use your poles. And other techniques are not necessarily wrong, because we're all different. But listen up, have a go, and see how any of this works for you. So I'm going to talk about the length of the pole. So I always have the pole so that I can hold my arm here at about a right angle. And I rarely change the length of my pole when I'm going up or down the hill, because terrain changes quite quickly. Instead, I just would hold the pole and use it in a different way. Okay, the next two techniques are adaptations I've made as a result of doing Nordic walking. That's the skiing type of walking with the much longer poles that you may have seen or heard of. Don't worry if you haven't. Let's consider now how and where we plant our poles. A style I often see is to walk placing the pole next to and at the same time as the opposing foot. This takes a little weight off the knees, it uses the arms a bit, and generally takes some impact out of walking. That's good as far as it goes. However, we can take a different approach, particularly when you're on relatively flat or gentle uphill slopes. Hold the pole at a slight backwards angle and use it to propel you along. Keep your pole in the backwards angle. What then happens is the pole tip touches the ground behind your opposing foot because of the angle you're holding it. You can then push yourself along with the pole a bit rather than just taking a bit of your weight. It works like magic if you need to catch up with the group. Next, your arm swing. Consider once more what happens if you're planting the pole at the same place as your foot or ahead of your foot. You have to lift your arms and pole to plant it. I argue that it's wasted effort. Instead, think about keeping your arm a little straighter than normal as you swing more forward rather than lifting up. You're aiming to get a longer swing. This gives you more propulsion and encourages a more upright posture. I encourage you to use poles more for balance and propulsion and a little less for weight bearing. Now another technique, using poles two at a time this time. This is a good idea if you're tired, and it's also really good for steep uphill slogs. Again, maintaining a slight backwards angle in the poles and not lifting your arms too high will be more energy efficient. What these techniques are about is actively using your poles. Using the poles so that you're spreading the effort of walking across many more parts of your body, so your legs won't get as tired and you're using more different muscles. This is good for fitness, flexibility and posture. Limiting your pole use to just helping you out to balance on that tricky bit or just on the downhill slopes, it's fine, but it does seem a bit of a waste. Now, some important safety points. First of all, the strap. This is non-negotiable. Never loop the strap around your wrist when going downhill. Downhill is when you're most likely to slip and fall, and you could fall a bit further. A fall will probably result in a broken wrist if you've got your strap around your wrist. The strap serves no useful purpose at this point. Lost pole or broken wrist, it's a pretty easy decision. But some people do find using the strap along the flat gives a bit of extra propulsion. It supports the wrist and/or it helps with the pole swing. If that's you, this is the best way to use the strap. Put your hand up through the strap and hold the pole and the strap. This method provides a comfortable support underneath the hand. Personally, I never use the strap other than to hang up the pole at the end of the day. Next, using your pole to take your weight. This is often if you're protecting a dodgy knee or hip, and tends to happen as you descend a steep step. Don't do it, ever. Another accident just waiting to happen. We've all done it or been tempted, but you never really know when the pole adjustment, that's this bit here that regulates the length, it could give way. Or when the rock you've placed your pole on is going to go and split, or when you've planted the pole and it slides on the rock. And then you have a far bigger problem. Instead, if you need it, slow down and find another way. Sit down, turn around, get someone to give you a hand, or use your hands. Moving on, what about only using one pole? Well, it's certainly good for balance and support. It'll be taking some of the impact out of the walking, but it's not really the subject of this talk. Having said that, my advice about avoiding putting the full weight bearing onto your pole and using the strap still applies. A last quick point to add is using poles over very steep and uneven ground. The more uneven the ground, the more likely I am to hold my poles in one hand so that I can use the other one to take my weight, or I might put them away completely. You really need your hands to be free to support yourself, maybe to hold onto a rail or chain and so on. Although to be fair, this really steep ground is where one single pole can come into its own for balance. Finally, on trying to change your walking style, try new techniques slowly and on easy terrain. When you're fresh, don't wait until you're tired out struggling on that last descent. It's never a good time to experiment. But whatever you do, have fun with your walking.